Hey guys, Jesse here from Urban Legends Antiques, and we are at the Great Junk Hunt in Del Mar. We're going to do some shopping this time. We're going to be spending money instead of making money. Chuck's favorite. Come on, babe.
My favorite.
The Great Junk Hunt was held at the O'Brien Hall at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, and it totals over 58,000 square feet inside, but it felt small and intimate thanks to all the vendors. Outdoor vendors selling food and drinks right when you walk up. The first booth we walked up to was through the porthole, and they had a lot of really interesting things in their booth. I love the way it was set up and displayed.
So look at these. You think you did that with a CNC?
Maybe. You could.
There are a lot of cutting boards and boards to serve charcuterie trays on. Mineral and agates are starting to become popular, and these little busts of David, those are so cute. They even have their own book. This vendor was selling a lot of flannels with a little bit of lace sewed onto the edges of them. I liked the way it looked. I really liked this display a lot. I loved how Seahorse Design had stacked everything up when you walk in. I'm a fan of stacking and making the absolute most use of the space you have available because you've paid for that space. So you need to use it all. Every inch of that is money that you are either going to earn or waste, and she did a great job. I like how she put all of her copper pieces on this vertical board to display and sell them. It made it easy to see it all. Some vendors didn't have signage out, so I can't give them credit, but this was another booth that I really liked. I liked the vintage prints and the feeling of vintage Halloween. I saw a lot of vintage Halloween displays at the Great Junk Hunt this year. We also saw a lot of metal, like this vintage metal dresser. I don't know what it is, but this booth had a lot of old rusty metal pieces, and they were so pretty, especially when combined with the older pieces of wood and the older prints. I've purchased from this vendor numerous times when I come to the junk hunt. She sews a lot of stuff out of doilies and old lace tablecloths, and she's the first one that I saw that did this. There she is, she's waving hi. She's a phenomenal seamstress. Old School Antique Mart had Vintage Christmas out, which I thought was really cool. I'm going to put out Christmas right after Halloween is over, and I don't think it's too soon to be selling Christmas. People are already buying it. This vendor didn't have a sign out. I don't know what their name was, but they had a lot of really cool vintage items in their booth. I think a lot of it has sold. Instead of candy corn, this vendor made Indian corn, which I thought was a really cool spin on the traditional handmade candy corn you see. Okay, this is another vendor that did not have her name out, but she had a total of 3 booths. I believe her setup was huge, and it was nothing but vintage and antique jewelry. When people say to niche down and then you will find your customer, this is why. This lady is only selling old jewelry, and she has a ton of shoppers in her booth. And then this vendor looks like they sold out. Good for them. We've made it to the other side of the hall where they have a little cocktail bar set up. Chuck's gonna hang out on the benches with the other husbands. I'll come and pick him up later. This is one of my favorite displays, was all of the vintage glass grouped according to color. I thought it was so pretty, unique, well organized, and this booth had a ton of shoppers in it. Her display of milk glass with all the little pumpkins in it is so sweet. I'm officially gonna borrow this idea, but I'm gonna do it with Christmas trees for Christmas time. Right next to Rhinestones and Rust was this sweet little booth with the artist sitting out front. I didn't get a chance to talk to the artist. I was just going through and filming, but she hand paints everything. She had pieces of driftwood that she had painted little Santa Clauses on. She was using them as decorations on her tree. It was very sweet. This booth had beautiful things inside of it. It looked so luxurious and high-end, but unfortunately she didn't have a lot of shoppers in her booth, and I don't know why, but her things were beautiful. I really like these cutting boards that she has. They have a little leather hanging handle on them. It was cool. Okay, guys, this is Little Burlap Barn. They are across the aisle from JC Home Goods, and they had a ton of shoppers in their booth. It was very lively. It felt energetic. It felt inviting. They had candles burning. They had people shopping. They were out actively interacting with their customers, and this makes a huge difference in your sales. If you notice your sales are dropping, there are numerous things you can do. You can go and rearrange your booth. You can play music in your booth that is different than music that the event is playing. You can have scents out. I will have my family come in and say, wow, this is great. This is so amazing. What is this? Just to generate interest and have people feeling like they are missing out on something. While I was filming, the owner of this booth came over and talked to me. She handed me her business card. She let me know where I can find her business when it's not at the Great Junk Hunt. She talked to me about a piece of furniture that I was admiring, and that is the way that you make a sale, and made her memorable. I love this setup. If you guys have been following me from the beginning, you know that I started my little business with chairs, and the name of this booth was Happy Chairs, and it made me so happy to see all these bright, colorful chairs at the Great Junk Hunt. I love when vendors will step away from the traditional cream and beige motif that you see everywhere and do color. She sewed these bright, colorful pillows, which I loved. One of the things that I had noticed that was different this year at the Great Junk Hunt versus last year was that a lot of the vendors, they had set up an area in the middle of the aisle for all the vendors to stand and work from, so that way the shoppers could shop in their booth. And you would see a lot of the vendors just kind of sitting there and resting. I'm sure by this time they were tired. They had already done Friday night and early bird shopping, and it's about 2 o'clock on Saturday at this point, so a lot of them I'm sure are worn out. It's also totally normal to see people coming in with huge wagons and dollies to shop with. This vendor did a good job of letting the customers know where to purchase. He had a sales counter right at the front that was cleared off and ready to take any purchases that the customers had.
I feel like we've seen this guy before.
I don't know the name of this vendor, and I'm kicking myself because I was so excited when I saw her booth. I ran in and I bought one of her little hanging succulent gardens. I thought they were so cute. I bought the one that's a little wine glass that you see hanging there, and she has it set up so you can either buy one that's already been made, or you can purchase one and then have the succulents put into it. She had the care instructions out. She had all different types of succulents to choose from. They were so cute. I really like the way this vendor set up her booth. The way she had the dresser at an angle instead of flat against the wall made it seem like there were extra hidden treasures behind it that you needed to go and explore and look at. This vendor had a really interesting backdrop. It was a picture of their family. More serving boards, more cutting boards, more cement bowls. They're still popular. How can you tell this look is still popular? There's people shopping this booth. If you like modular multifunctional furniture, this is the vendor for you. He's been at every great junk hunt I've ever been to, but I never get his name.
Yes, they're all different.
It's like my first camera.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, this is the third time that I have seen a turquoise piece of furniture used as a standout piece in a booth, so I think I might need to paint something turquoise. And I like my silver tarnished and musty and crusty, but this silver was so beautiful it glowed. And it was sitting on top of this old, I don't know what kind of table this is, but it had been repaired with bits of tin. The vendor said that it came from India like this, and that's how they repair their furniture there. Instead of getting a whole new top, they just cover it with tin. And here we have more rusty old metal pots that have been painted and distressed. I'm thinking this is a trend. And what am I coming up on? More of the serving boards and more vintage Halloween. I really liked this Halloween display just because there was so much of it. You could see all of the Halloween. It was all out in the front displayed. So that way, instead of kind of picking through other things, you could just look at it and choose what you wanted.
Oh my gosh, it's a celebrity. Oh my gosh.
Unless this vendor restocks, this booth looks fairly close to being sold out. It's pretty empty. It looks like it's been picked over, but she still has shoppers in there, so they're doing a good job. I know that this vendor has been restocking because their booth still looks super full, and I have seen people carrying purchases from this booth. More rusty metal, this time in the form of signs. Next to that booth, there's rusty metal painted pumpkins.
To get sold.
Look at that, more serving boards. Here's another vendor of vintage jewelry. And from Epic Artware, my most favorite thing I've ever seen at the Great Junk Hunt. It was this mini grand piano that he had put on his side and turned into a shelf. I love this thing. The lid opened up and there was more storage there. The piano keys didn't move. But oh my gosh, I thought this was so beautiful, creative, and unique. For $2,800, it was a pretty penny. But man, a girl can dream. All right, you guys, now that I've kind of walked you through my process of what I do to figure out what it's trending in my area, I want you to look at these next couple of booths and tell me what you see. Are you seeing the creams and beiges? Are you seeing the wood accents? Are you seeing turquoise as a standout color? Do you see rusty metal bits? Are you seeing painted rusty metal? Are you seeing vintage jewelry? Are you seeing doily and lace attached to things? Are you seeing vintage holiday decorations? Comment below and tell me what you see. And here's a unique take on the vintage pipe cleaner Christmas trees that you've seen in decor recently. Instead of doing it for Christmas, this vendor painted them and made them for Halloween, which I thought was very unique. Very smart. Mushrooms and flora and fauna. I had a lot of mushrooms at my event last year and I sold out. And here it looks like we're coming to the end of the Great Junk Hunt and we're at S&S Junk in the Trunk. I'm a big fan of them. I follow them on Instagram and look, they have right there in their booth, what do you see? Turquoise. The Great Junk Hunt always has a cute little backdrop set up for people to take a photo with. And when you're a vendor, honestly, you don't have the time to take one. You're so busy. But I'm not a vendor at this event, so I'm going to take the opportunity and get me a photo.
That's all for now. Thanks, Junk Hunt.